Now you can call me a hard man to please, or if you're a bit angry at this video, a hard man child to please. That's fair enough, that is literally my job description, being hard to please. But even then, I do like to go into reviews, critiques and all that with the intent of being at least lenient and understanding of a game. Something that I've tried to do with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but at the same time, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has also tried my patience. That being said, I do believe that Episode 2 of the Fate of Atlantis expansion, which name escapes me, I believe it's something along the lines of Hades Anal Beads, is at least a little bit superior to Episode 1. Maybe I'm just a master of making my own fun, I'm literally riding around the underworld on a fucking cow, but seriously I think that this episode is at least a fair bit better than Episode 1, which I would chalk down more to circumstance than the effort that went into making this DLC. Yes, I know half the comment section is going to be filled with people who stopped watching the video already 30 seconds ago, so I think it's important that we stop faffing about with this intro and I just explain my points. I would ask that people hear me out before they make comments, but you know what, you can do whatever you want. However, please do enjoy this review of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, The Fate of Atlantis Episode 2, The Torment of Hades.
Let go! It's not worth it! This is for your own...
Yeah, I thought I'd do you all a favour and get the typical damage sponge complaint out the way first. And now, into the actual review. Okay, now first and foremost, I think it's important that we mention what this episode has improved over the last one, whether it intended to or not. The visuals. The world in this DLC looks a lot nicer than it did in the Fields of Elysium. Now I say this not because of what's on the ground is particularly aesthetically pleasing, but because you can't see stupidly far into the distance two waterfalls that look like shit. And so for almost exclusively the fact that this world is absolutely rammed with fog, I'd say that it looks better as a result. Now it's still relatively devoid of any aesthetically pleasing sights, maybe barring this cave, but at least no matter in which direction you look at, you aren't staring at waterfalls that look like they were designed in the early 2000s. And though graphics isn't everything, a solid look definitely is, and when you can see in the distance things not loaded in proper, and you can tell that it's not loaded in proper, it can properly ruin the immersion you're trying to get here. Though in Odyssey's case, unfortunately, it's just one of many factors why you can't really immerse yourself in this world. Another thing that I'd say is better in Episode 2 than Episode 1 are certain quests. Now in Episode 1, every single quest felt like filler, and I really didn't give a crap about any of them. I'm not saying I gave a crap about any of them in this one, however, I can see that there would be an argument for caring for them, because in this part you actually do get to see some old characters from the main story again, such as people that you've killed, Brasidas, Phoebe. The majority of quests are filled with filler that I don't really care about, however, these particular moments I can see that they did intend for them to carry some weight, and the fact that it didn't really for me is more a problem that I'd have to take up with the main game than the DLC. I'm sure people who did form an emotional attachment to these characters in the main story would have a better time with that, but I can certainly appreciate the attempt at the callback there. Another solid thing is it doesn't end without any actual climax. In this you actually get to fight Hades. The boss fight's pretty tedious and it's not too difficult, but at least there's something there to tell you that you're at the finale, instead of just dropping you down a hole and making it look like you're about to fight a boss and then the DLC just ends. Furthermore, another thing that really hindered my experience with Episode 1 was the feeling that no matter how much I did, I felt like I got nothing done. It felt like a fever dream, where you set out to do something, but you never get to complete that task before you wake up, and then it plays on your mind for the entire day. In the first half of the DLC, I didn't get that feeling at all. In the second half, it started to creep up, however, it nowhere near got as intense as it did in Episode 1. So I can respect the fact that it feels like I'm actually making progress in this DLC, as opposed to just going around doing loads of pointless filler and getting nowhere. That being said, a lot of episode 2 is just filler as well, such as sending you to kill the Fallen, essentially mercenaries, to collect armor pieces just so that you can continue with the story of the DLC. Now there's no story in this quest, you just collect the armor pieces. One of the armor pieces though you do collect in a mission in which you run into someone from the main story, and that is of a higher quality-ish to the rest of them. If all of the quests had a quality like that, it would have been better. It wouldn't have been amazing, but at least it wouldn't have felt like filler nonsense. That being said, there was also another quest in which you had to go and find 4 guardians for each gate to the underworld. Now these, you just went and you found Fallen again, and you defeated them in battle, and then once you'd done that, they would just go off and defend those gates somewhere where you can't actually go. You don't have any actual dialogue with them. In the fight there's a little bit, but it's just janky combat nonsense really. So again, there's a filler quest with no actual narrative input besides this needs to be done by the end of the DLC. I personally think this highlights a massive flaw in the game design for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because it's something that was in the main story, it was something that was in the Legacy DLC, it was something that was in Episode 1. They use filler a lot in these quests, and these quests don't have any relevance, and you do hundreds of hours worth of these, hundreds of quests just like this. None of them are actually worth doing. It seems like Ubisoft are using the fact that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is an RPG to be lazy and just put what is essentially no better than pointless collectibles and pass it off as story content. The RPG structure has brought Odyssey down in a lot of ways by making it seem too open, too unscripted, to the point where everything that you do just feels like filler. I don't mind having to collect 5 pieces of armor, or going about defeating 4 mercenaries or whatever, as long as there's a concise narrative that explains step by step how you got there, besides from throwing you in the world and saying just do it and come to us at the end, then we'd actually get storytelling along the way, and it would deliver a much higher quality experience. It doesn't even have to not be an RPG for that to work. Games like The Witcher 3 do it with questlines like the Bloody Baron. Now, it's a bit different, however, it is quite a long-winded one where essentially you've got to do a lot of chasing geese, but it tells a story along the way, which makes it so good. Because it doesn't waste a second to make you feel attached to these characters and care about the outcome of this quest. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey's main game, let alone the DLC, it feels like every 5 hours you might get something remotely meaningful. And then in the DLC's content, I'd say maybe 5 to 10% of it is actually meaningful stuff. The rest of it is just filler. And that's not even taking into account the gameplay. Obviously that estimate might be an exaggeration, but do you see what I mean? And it can't just be me who's noticing that episode 1 and 2 are both highlighting this issue big time. Another issue that I do take with episode 2 is its lack of modern day input. Now, I thought that this was going to further the modern day story of these DLCs, but episode 1 had a cutscene at the beginning and end, and episode 2 the same. Just a small cutscene at the beginning and end. Nothing really of substance there. And what is there is pretty fucking stupid, I'm just going to be honest with you.
Let go! It's not worth it! This is for your own... Get up, Victoria!
What the fuck do you mean get up? You just struck her upside the head with a magical artifact that sent her flying in a glowing golden aura. For her, being clinically brain dead would be a miracle. Yeah, and that's more or less how it ends. It's almost like Ubisoft are making an active effort to make Layla come across as stupid. But whatever they're actually trying to do with Layla, it's safe to say that it's not working. And since it's like literally the only real thing that's actually happening in the entire DLC, since everything that's being experienced is a simulation by Alethea, it really brings down the overall quality of this DLC. Now onto side content, I'm not sure if the Brasidas and Phoebe missions and the missions that you do for Charon, the guy who rows the boat down the Styx to take the dead people to wherever they need to be, are side missions, but I don't think they're actually relevant to the main story, the main reason why you're down here. Learning the Keeper's secrets and helping out Hades with his predicament because you killed his dog. I saw that as a video title in my recommended, and it accurately represents that scene.
So find another dog.
You find another dog!
Now there is the main story of part 2 to consider, in which, you know, not an awful lot happened, to be fair. It's the same as part 1 really. It's a mostly disconnected story where you've just killed Hades' dog. You've got to make it right to Hades by essentially finding 4 pals for him to guard the gates with. There's a 5th gate he doesn't tell you about, and he tries to trick you into being the 5th guardian for that gate. So you scrap him out, and then you beat the shit out of him. Return to modern day, suddenly you're Layla, and you just kill Victoria just because. And to be honest, if Layla was that fragile mentally, I just wonder why she didn't do it sooner. We don't actually know if Victoria's dead though, but let's face it. Anyways, overall, I do believe that episode 2 was at least better than episode 1 by circumstance. Being episode 2, they could do a bit more, they could start wrapping up all the nonsense stuff in the background, but I still hold the belief that Assassin's Creed fans deserve better than what they're getting even here. I feel as if it's just filler, to be honest, and for people who are paying for this content, it must feel like a massive letdown. More does not mean better. Better quality means better. Doing the same filler nonsense that requires the mental capacity equal to that of collecting pointless stuff in an open world does not equal high quality. That being said, maybe episode 3 will make it all worth it, but at this point I highly doubt it. But I do worry what lore tomfoolery they'll pull, as it is the final episode and they'll want to leave it on a bang, or what they perceive as a bang, but for all we know it could be a crash and a burn. But don't just take my opinion, be sure to look around, see what other people think, and most importantly forge your own opinions on this DLC, as that is the most important thing. But hopefully you can at least see where I'm coming from with my criticisms in this video. If not, that's fine. If you disagree, be sure to let me know in the comment section. I just ask that you be respectful, that's all I really care about. And thus we conclude this review. Now, for my final thoughts summed up, it's not something that I'd ever play again. That's all I'm going to say. I didn't really have many expectations for this episode, and I don't have any expectations for episode 3. Who knows what they'll do, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Hopefully they can fix all of this, maybe they won't. I don't really mind at this point. I'm just here to be honest with you guys and stream it because it's Assassin's Creed, and if I ignored it, you'd be like, where's the Assassin's Creed content? Because I built my channel around it at one point. Anyways, thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comment section, and I'll see you all very soon with another video at some point.
Testicles! It's nice to see you in one piece.
Mistios! Yes, I like it. Nothing trying to eat testicles.
What are you doing here?
Came looking for a magic flower. Sounded so pretty. Wanted pretty flower oil. Have you seen it?
I don't think anything pretty grows in a place like this.
You're right. Testicles is the only pretty thing here.
Right. Well, it was nice seeing you.
No hug this time. Okay?